Hector Balderas was a prosecutor, then a private attorney in Albuquerque, before moving back to his hometown of Wagon Mound to run for the legislature. He served 2 terms as a state representative before being elected auditor in 2006. Mr. Balderas has touted his work in that office fighting corruption and increasing the use of subpoena and special investigative powers. And he says those are the skills he will put to use as Attorney General, combating fraud and increasing protection for consumers. While the race could be a toss-up, Mr. Balderas has also raised far more money than his opponent.
Hector Balderas, thank you so much for being with us today. You have criticized the current Attorney General, Gary King, for his handling of the Medicare fraud investigation. If you become AG, what would you do differently from King besides that?
Well, I've also been critical of the governor and the administration in terms of the oversight agency that initially handled this investigation. I think that we need to target Medicaid fraud in a much more efficient manner. We're subject matter experts in auditing, but we have really not grown up in our state when it comes to targeting Medicaid fraud without upending citizens and clients who are in the system. So I've been very critical that we should have targeted the fraud without having to shut down providers and been much more efficient at it. And I think that we can recruit the best and brightest and completely reform that system so it's a system we can be proud of.
Outside of the fraud investigations, what else would you do differently from King?
Well, we have to use certified fraud examiners. One of the early critiques and distrust was when the Martinez administration used a firm that was from out of state and weren't even competent in terms of targeting Medicaid fraud. Secondly, there has to be more transparency at the Attorney General's office. We need to be a national leader in reforming that Medicaid control fraud unit. And finally, we need to get more involved in the community. There are many other tools that other states use. For instance, self-reporting, settlement provisions within the communities where we can begin to recover some of these dollars that we're losing due to Medicaid fraud.
Your opponent in this race, Susan Riedel, is a longtime prosecutor who says that her experience as a prosecutor much better prepares her for the job of top cop. So what one issue most differentiates you from her?
Well, I think she has very limited experience. I also prosecuted early in my career like her, but I've been fighting waste, fraud, and abuse and corruption for 8 years, and I haven't seen her at all in terms of her joining in this battle. She's a political appointee of the governor. She's got very narrow criminal experience when it deals with local felony type of criminal misconduct, but I have the independent leadership to take on statewide corruption and have been doing it for 8 years. So she has a very narrow expertise. I have much broader expertise, and ultimately the AG's office has to be an independent leader and has to be a watchdog agency, and we clearly have superior experience when it comes to transforming offices that the citizens need.
You recently said, as Attorney General, I won't be an insider bureaucrat. But you've been an assistant district attorney, a special prosecutor, a state representative, and now you've served your limit of 2 terms as state auditor. You also ran unsuccessfully for the U.S. Senate in 2012. So how would you assure the public that you really want to be Attorney General and not just a career in politics that continues in a higher office?
Sure. We actually have a very strong track record of bringing real reforms. I was the first elected official to require law enforcement to tape interrogations in New Mexico. I was the first elected official to require governments to disclose when they're late on audits and have targeted over $1 billion of unaudited dollars. And ultimately, we have really walked the walk. When we took a sleepy office like the auditor's office, no one knew what the auditor did or who the auditor was. And we have engaged in the largest corruption cases that now we are the single best source of information for the press and, more importantly, for federal law enforcement agencies like the FBI. We're about to unload on another charter school abuse case. Waste, fraud, and abuse is rampant throughout government. And so when I say I'm not an insider bureaucrat, what I do is I take offices that are underutilized, take the powers that have never been utilized in those offices, and truly empower the citizens of New Mexico to join me in fighting waste, fraud, and abuse. And an office that only has 27 employees or 28 employees, like the auditor's office, has transformed the way we combat waste, fraud, and abuse. I think we need that type of accountability and transformation at the Attorney General's office. Imagine if I have a toolbox with many more tools to actually go out and make government work better, make corporate America work better, and engage the nonprofit sector in a way that we can be providing better services to our community. We could have a transformation, and that's the vision that we have for the Attorney General's office.
Is there one particular achievement that you've made during your time in the auditor's office that you're most proud of?
You know, we have many victories where we've partnered with law enforcement agencies or community leaders, but the one that stands out for me in my career is the Jemez Mountain School largest embezzlement case in New Mexico history. There is a lot of work that still needs to be done. There are kids and parents being victimized by waste, fraud, and abuse and corruption.
What was the role that you personally played in that? We all remember this from the news, but what was your particular involvement?
It was a education leader that came to me and said, we have red flags here, and public education department, local law enforcement, none of them are paying attention to us. They came to me, we studied the case. I drove up there with my general counsel to a very isolated village that everyone had forgotten about, and met with the community, met with management, and then soon realized this was going to be one of the most abusive cases of public corruption that we had ever seen in New Mexico. So I personally got involved, but accidentally, it was because I went to Highlands University with this superintendent, and he called me as a friend and said, Hector, I need you to really look at this. So when I say I'm not a bureaucrat, and these personal relationships of being connected to communities that are forgotten and citizens that are forgotten, that's personally how I was raised, that's my politics. And that gives me an advantage to really make the most of resources, and most importantly, take on some of the biggest battles, biggest risks that New Mexico is facing. And that's what really ultimately people want.
You recently said you want to make the AG's office a robust oversight agency led by an independent watchdog. But a 2012 investigation by the Center for Public Integrity, one that I worked on, rated states on their risk for corruption and ranked New Mexico 39th out of the 50, and gave our state government a D+ on public access to information in particular, and an F on ethics enforcement. So what would you do as Attorney General to improve the public's access to information and to ensure that those who violate the public trust are punished?
I think that we have to create an enforcement mechanism. We have to make an example of bad conduct, and we have to use that as a learning experience to train local leaders, members of the press, and ultimately government bureaucrats. But another area that's a big pitfall for New Mexico is that we need to start at the budget process and make sure that all agencies are mandated to set aside properly trained staff to turn around these public information requests and make documents more available to the public.
Are you saying we need to spend more money on it?
Not more money. This can be budget neutral. Agencies are not taking this as a top priority. We are in the dark ages when it comes to transparency. But it's more important than just an enforcement mechanism, but we need to rebuild that. But secondly, we don't have the infrastructure. Right now it's hit or miss. If you do a public records request in Mora versus the city of Albuquerque, you will get 2 different responses and 2 different reactions, and that's just unacceptable for the taxpayer.
You grew up in the tiny community of Wagon Mound in northern New Mexico with a single mother. What lessons from your early life do you carry with you today?
Well, the first, in terms of how I govern, is that I look at every issue through the citizens and the eyes of Wagon Mound. And so when I grew up there, we had public housing, a school, and what was called at the time the highway department that provided like 8 highway jobs. And when it comes to public protection of taxpayer dollars, or always reconnecting that we were a forgotten community, it governs every decision that I make, and I think it's given us an advantage to fixing problems, or at least running toward the greatest risks of New Mexico. And I govern every day as a Wagon Mound citizen, and it's really given me a unique perspective in how we govern and how we make decisions better for the citizens.
Is that part of what motivates you to run and do public service?
It is what primarily motivates me. I ran against a Democratic legislator because I thought he was abusing the community, and I was willing to leave Albuquerque and go home and live in a small community as a practicing attorney, but most importantly, it motivated me to try to bring about reforms. And I've really believed that it strengthens my independence as well, being connected to those type of voters as opposed to an elite political system really gives us the strength to do the right thing and bring about real reform.
Hector Balderas, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.